Technology sucks.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. Round 2 of trying this. I'm Louie. That's Manny. This is Haunted Hangover Live, episode 6. And tonight is not the night for us. It's not. We've had technical difficulties up the wazoo. OBS, the internet. It's raining cats and dogs out here in New York. So it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So this is what the third live, I guess, third attempt at a live stream tonight. Ooh. It's just, you know what it is? It's one of those days. It's one of those rough, it's just one of those rough days where you're just like, nothing is working. So hopefully for the next 45 minutes to an hour, everything runs smoothly. And anyone that's here live, because the link has changed 50 times,
then good on you.
That's watching. Maybe
good on you for following.
Good on you then for following and joining us here on this lovely, gloomy evening. At least here in New York,
putting up with the nonsense we're putting up with, following us around.
It's rough today. It's been a rough. You know, I thought at this point, the last one went pretty smooth sailing. It was pretty good. So no, we needed a shit storm to hit us tonight here on the live stream. But yes, we're here. We're ready to talk in a violent nature. Finally, here we go. Manny saw this movie back in April at the Overlook Film Festival.
April 5th.
Yes, we talked about it very briefly because I hadn't seen it yet.
There's the proof.
There's my proof. There's your ticket. We talked about it you gave kind of a very, very non-spoiler 5-minute review of what you thought of the film because it was not available to everyone.
Yeah, it hadn't even been released yet. So yeah.
And at the time of this live stream, it's been out for almost a week. So I feel like now would be a good time to kind of do a spoiler review and give our thoughts.
Been out for a whole week now, just ruined the movie.
Now just ruined.
You had your chance to see it.
Even though, yes. Hey, listen, that's the way of the game. Sorry, guys. It is gonna be dropping on Shudder, I think, in like a month or two.
They just keep saying later this year. It could be but that's a good thing because the problem that films are having right now is that everything's going to streaming in like a month or two. So people aren't going to the theaters anymore. Yeah. So the fact that they're saying, it's going to come to Shudder, but they're not telling you when. Perfect. Go see it while it's in the theater now. You know, because it might not be on Shudder till October for all we know.
Yeah, it's because Late Night with the Devil, they released a month.
It was like 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tops.
It was like max a month.
Maybe a month.
So I think we saw it and then we reviewed it. And then like 3 or 4 weeks later, it was out for everyone to see. So this isn't taking the Late Night with the Devil route. And
well, we don't know that.
Well, no, because if I remember correctly, when Late Night with the Devil came out, they were kind of advertising that it would be out in a few weeks. It was just go see it in theaters if you want to experience. They did, within a violent nature, they're not doing that. They're just sort of releasing it in theaters and see what happens.
Maybe they learned from that a lot of people decided to wait and just, it'll be on Shudder in a month. Maybe they learned. Who knows? This might be on Shudder in a month from now, but they're not telling you that.
Yeah, and the movie's doing pretty well right now for an indie level film, an indie budget film with no big names, even less big names than Late Night with the Devil. I'd say that probably has, that David what's his name? Dastmalchian. He's a relatively big name, especially in the last few years, where this movie doesn't have, there's no big names at all. Like there's no actor to kind of market the film around. And just by going by doing a quick Google search and just like when you go on Google and you look up a movie and it gives you those like ratings, the yellow kind of star rating, a lot of people are most people are giving it like a 1 star, like really pretty poor. Which
really like, I don't understand.
Well, I think it's because people are going into this thinking it's going to be like a Friday the 13th Jason Voorhees slasher
The
film.
trailer
And,
showed you exactly the type of movie it was.
oh, no, I agree.
It is
But
very clear in the trailer what this is. On top of the fact that, I think they're wrong on that. I think this is a very Friday the 13th. It is a Jason slasher film. Tell me how the only difference is that we're following Jason instead of a bunch of teenagers doing nothing but waiting to be killed. That's it.
I agree. And again, it's more of like an art house take on a slasher film. So I think there's that part of it when you look at when you watch a 30-second trailer and then you go and watch a 90-minute movie, or in this case, I think it's a little longer than 90 minutes. It's a very different experience. So I could see people, maybe certain people that are not horror fans like us and most people that would listen to this show, and Haunted Hangover in general, we kind of knew going in what to expect, where I think if you're just Joe Schmo who, or Joe Blow who's in the chat, wouldn't expect this to be the type of film they're going to go watch, where a good chunk of it is quiet in the woods. So I could see some people, and then the ending, which we'll get into, I could see some people kind of hating that. But real quick, two things here at the top before we dive into In a Violent Nature. Number one, Manny and I love this movie, so there will be no shitting on this film at all. We don't really do that anyway, but we're not. We might have our little one or two nitpicks, but we both love this movie. We both really enjoyed it. We both thought it was a very well crafted film. So there's that. Number two, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this. So full spoiler warning here, because we're not. The movie's been out in theaters. It'll be on Shudder soon. And, that was smooth, Joe Blow. You like that, right? So, in the chat, Joe Blow, he likes the way I did that. But, we're going to be spoiling a lot of the film. So, we'll do our best to not kind of spoil everything, but to discuss the ending and stuff. It's kind of obvious we have to kind of talk about the ending, who lives, who dies, and all that good stuff. So, yes, big spoiler warning here in the intro for In a Violent Nature. Now, Manny, I'm going to let you do the honors. What exactly is In a Violent Nature about? Break it down.
Okay, so the basic story of this is you have Johnny. Johnny was a kid who, I think he fell off the water tower.
Correct.
Right?
It was like a fire water tower deal.
Yeah, he fell off a water tower accidentally. That's what they said, that it was an accident, and implying that it was on purpose. I forget exactly why he fell off the water tower, but he fell off the water tower. They basically covered it up and called it an accident. Now we have years later, these kids are out near that water tower, what's left of the burned down water tower, and they find a necklace like in the rubble. There's a necklace literally hanging off of like a piece of metal, and they pick up the one of the kids secretly takes the necklace and pockets it. And as soon as they leave the area, Johnny wakes up from under the rubble because he wants his necklace back. The necklace, we find out the necklace was his mother's later on. And the film starts more or less right there. And now what we do is we follow Johnny in a third person video game style camera over the shoulder film.
Yeah, the best comparison I have, it's because I'm playing it right now. So if you're a fan of the like Resident Evil games, the game engine that they're currently using, the way you're kind of following Leon Kennedy and Joe Valentine, where you're basically right behind them.
Yeah.
That's, I'd say, 90% of this movie is from that perspective.
I would say 60 or 70. There's actually a lot more.
You're right. Maybe 70, 75.
It's about 60, 70% of the film, because we follow him, but then there are moments where we watch what he's watching, but we never until one specific moment, we never leave his perspective.
Yeah, and
it's like there's some points where it's almost like a cutscene of a video game. Like, here, let's just watch what he's watching.
That's exactly what it feels like at times, a video game. Now, two things, because I know you kind of broke down the film there. We mentioned people thinking this was a Friday the 13th-esque film. Johnny is basically Jason Voorhees in a nutshell. He is a mentally handicapped, deformed child who this tragedy happens to, he dies and comes back to get
As a
revenge.
full-grown human
A
being.
full grown man now. So, and I think he was like a teenager, and
Yeah.
it's a decade has passed since the
Mhm.
original. Kind of like when you watch The Burning,
Yep.
how he gets burnt and killed, but I think it's a year later or something like that. In
Mhm.
this case, it's a decade later. So it's like I
Yep.
think
That My Bloody
2000.
Valentine.
Yes.
Yep.
2004 is when this incident happened with Johnny being killed. And then 10 years later, his body reanimates and comes back to life. So those kind of are two little notes I wanted to add to your kind of breakdown where he is literally Jason Voorhees without the copyright. Like that's what this guy is. To so on the money, honestly, that to in certain scenes when you look at him and you do see his face in this. At first, I thought they were not going to show it,
Yeah.
but you do see it. He basically looks like an unmasked
He does.
Jason Voorhees, like part 4 Jason.
And he doesn't have the mask in the beginning either.
No.
He gets the mask, I think, after like the second victim, after the
Yes.
second or third person he kills.
Yeah.
When he kills people, and just like Jason, he takes the bodies over to the fire station, and he just basically stacking them up. And when he goes into the fire station, he grabs he goes into, there's like this little museum of old things, and he grabs an old fireman's helmet, and that becomes his mask, and that's the mask everybody's seeing. But up until that point, you're over his shoulder and he's not wearing a mask. He looks like Jason from like part 7 from behind.
Yeah.
That like weird
doppelganger
kind of, yeah. Yeah, with that like pinky waterlogged skin. Yeah, he's mostly bald. There's just some strands of hair kind of hanging off of him, but it totally, and I think it's even like a brown or a green jacket. It really looks like you're following Friday the 13th 7 Jason around the woods.
Yeah, and to go back to the mask,
Mm.
I think that plays into his backstory because the camp or whatever has, I think, a fire mask on the,
Yeah.
like their logo, and they have it in not a shrine, but there's like an exhibit of the fire department or
Yes.
something that
Yeah.
runs the town.
It's a
or
little
the camp.
museum inside the firehouse. Yeah.
So that's and that even plays into his weapons because he's using a fire axe and a fire hook and chain type
Yeah.
deal. So they even, I guess, if this movie was a franchise, that would be the character's lore. Was
Yeah.
this kind of fire? Again, we both only saw the movie once, so some details we haven't been able to watch it again. So there's some details that are a little lost since we only had one viewing of the film. But yes, they kind of give a backstory as to why he wants to wear this mask and get his revenge. And that what's cool about that is whenever you see these movies, and the only other movie I can compare it to, and I hate that it always comes up whenever we do shows, is Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first one, where you see Michael Myers and you follow Michael Myers and you see why he wanted the mask back and how he gets the jumpsuit. Kind of in that vein, but this was done much better. I think this was a well crafted kind of execution in telling the backstory of a killer. And a lot of his backstory, and since we're on that topic, is told through dialogue, with the other characters.
Yeah.
So like there's points where they're having a conversation in the distance, and you sort of have to listen because it's such a quiet film and pay attention to what they're saying because it is, and it's a pretty simple film to follow, but there are plot points, and I can't wait to see it again for this very reason. There are plot points that in exposition are kind of laid out. So like you mentioned, the gold necklace locket thing that he really wants. The relationships with the teens is kind of told through that. One guy is going to give it to his girlfriend or the girl he likes, and the friends are hanging out and smoking pot. And I do like that. I think that was smart writing. And considering that the main character in this movie is the antagonist. So technically the bad guys who you're following. So it's kind of like what his ears would hear. So if you're, 50 feet away or 20 feet away, you can't quite make out what they're saying.
Yeah, the first time that they break his perspective is in order to give his backstory. And it's still his perspective, but you have the classic scene of the teens kind of sitting around a campfire telling the story, and they're telling the story of Johnny. And that's when the camera kind of passes him. he stops and the camera, I believe that's how they shot it, that the camera just
Yeah.
kept going and then it goes around a circle in them. And as it's going around them, you can see him standing in the trees behind them, just like it would be in a Friday the 13th, where Jason's just standing in the dark waiting for them. And it even sets up that moment where they're telling a story. Oh, we hear a strange sound. Somebody gets up and walks off. And this is when Jason's going to get them in the dark. It sets that up. And that's what I really loved about it, that it showed you what Jason is actually doing. It's something that we've always joked about. I think we even talked about it when we covered it, when I talked about it last, how we always kind of joke, well, what is Jason doing? Is he setting up these traps and then just standing there waiting for them to kind of, and it actually answers that question. It does that.
Jason just walks a lot. That's what this movie's telling you. He walks a lot. And
he does a lot of walking, but he does set things up, which I think is really like the car.
Oh, dude. So that's my favorite. So that is probably, so I want to break down this scene because I'm glad you mentioned that. This scene.
I do want to say that we're not really skipping too much because that's the basis of the movie. We're going to follow him as he kills them one at a time. So in between the kills, he's just walking from the woods from one building to the next. That's the majority of the film.
That is the movie until the very end, which we'll get to and talk about, because that's really where
it gets. Car. Yeah.
Oh, dude. So when you watch a Friday the 13th movie or a Halloween film where there's these mass killers, setting up these kills, You've never had an opportunity, for the most part, nothing comes to mind right now, where you see them set up. So you never see Michael Myers put the bodies in the closet and let them hang out.
Yeah.
Or when Jason...
Which is always a little ridiculous. Like, is that what he's doing? Yeah, it turns out.
So there's a scene in this film, and the way they shoot it is
genius.
Great. It's
absolute
great.
Genius.
So you've got Johnny, and there's two scenes that kind of work, that kind of play into the whole play into how these slasher characters are looked at and why these characters are so dumb and don't really pick up on certain things that they do in movies. So the best scene, and the one we're talking about with the car, is, so Johnny, I think, is in the distance. He's spying on the group. They're freaking out because people are missing. They need to get help, yada, yada. Typical tropey slasher movie stuff. And Johnny wants to set something up to distract one of the guys to leave the house so he can kill them, because that's all he's been doing up until this point, is killing people. He really wants his necklace. That's all he wants. They just
find his axe too?
Yes, I think they took his axe.
They took his axe. Yeah, he had done something and he dragged a body over and he put the axe down as he dragged the body over. And at the same time, they come around the other way and one of the guys finds the axe and the girl is freaking out like, what? I told you something's wrong.
Yeah.
So basically, Johnny turns around, he sees his axe is gone.
And he's pissed off.
And follows the voices. Yes.
Yeah. So he grabs, it's like a pipe or like a PVC pipe or something off the ground.
The setup is just for the physical setup. Yeah. There's a cabin and a pickup truck parked like right in front of the cabin,
which is their car, which is like the car they're going to use to get away, because there's another scene earlier in the film that I love that plays into the car too. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that one after this one. So Johnny grabs this pipe. The dude walks in, because that's what they are. I don't even remember these characters' names, the human characters, at least most of them. So the dude walks into the house. Johnny grabs this pipe. He lodges it in between the driver's seat and the horn, where you would honk the horn on the steering wheel. He walks takes a long walk behind the house.
And we follow him.
We follow him. But just so that he can go back around on the other side to sneak up behind the guy to kill him. Yeah, to grab the axe and kill him. But what I like and what was cool about this was you can see the perspective of how these type of killers kind of set up. When you watch one of these movies, they hear a noise and they go investigate it. Mm-hmm. This is how that character sets up the noise. So I love that. It's genius. Mm-hmm. But what I like about this is when we're following Johnny, another male character sees him in the window. Yeah. So it kind of fucks up Johnny's plan, because he goes around, he approaches the guy, he injures the guy, I think by throwing something, maybe the axe or something, at his leg injuring him. And the other guy comes out with a shotgun, shoots Johnny. Obviously,
Yeah.
Johnny's undead. He can't die. Both of these gentlemen are killed. They're slaughtered. They're literally, I think one of the guys gets his head bashed in with a rock. Pretty
Yeah.
gnarly
Oh, which
effect.
is great. The
It's great.
whole
Yeah.
rush. Yeah.
But just the setup of that scene, how they shot it, and just
Yeah.
just to kind of show you, literally, we're behind Johnny's shoulder and head. The camera doesn't even cut. Literally, they follow him around for no reason around the. It's kind of funny, like you can't help but
Beautiful.
chuckle.
It's great.
Like this must have been done with a little humor. It's like you're following him around the whole house just so he can sneak up behind this guy. Like at first I thought he was gonna go into the house to like sneak up on him in the house, but no, just to end up right behind him. So good. And that whole scene with the car also reminded me of the way that they lose the car keys. Because when you watch these movies too, characters will fight and they'll get the keys. Oh, if you want the keys, go and get them, and they'll throw the keys.
Yeah.
And in this case,
Johnny
Johnny, and it's
picked him
so.
up.
This is the funniest thing about the scene. And in my theater, people were kind of.
This is why they can't find the keys, because Johnny
Yes.
had the keys and you see him grab the keys. It's so cool.
And Johnny's kind of simple in this.
It's so clever.
Yes, it is. So he grabs the keys. He sits behind a tree. Literally sits down. We watch. This is when we finally see his face for the first time.
Yeah.
Sits behind a tree, takes off his mask, and just is infatuated by this little red car that's on the keys.
Yeah. He's
And
literally playing with it. Yeah, like it's a toy. While they're doing whatever, they're freaking out
looking for the
about
keys.
all this. They're looking for
Yeah.
the keys and they're freaking out, just walking like around him, and they don't even realize because he's just sitting there playing with this little toy car.
Dude, it's so good. Like just like that scene, the dude is walking, and he doesn't even notice Johnny's sitting there. He's where the hell are the keys? And Johnny, we know Johnny's right there, just holding on to the keys, playing with the car.
And that simple nature of him, he's really not just like single-minded. I mean, he is single-minded, but it's not all just I need to kill people.
No.
Like he gets one thing in his mind and that's it, to the point where he's sitting there with this car and the guy is standing on the other side of the tree of him and Johnny doesn't even notice him because he's so focused on playing with this little car. And this is it's one of those moments where this is why this is seeing the actual character of the killer. That there's more to what he does. And this is, well, why didn't he kill him there? Why he was right there. Why didn't he kill these people then instead of later? Because he was actually distracted.
Yeah.
And he didn't even notice. Yeah. Cause it's one thought at a time. That's it.
And I was reading some articles like after seeing the movie because I wanted to avoid spoilers myself. And I didn't even think about it while watching the movie, but the director, his name's Chris Nash. This is his first feature-length film. I think he has some shorts under his belt and then one segment in ABCs of Death 2, the sequel. You know what his influence was? Gus Van Sant's Elephant, which I didn't even think, and Last Days.
Yeah.
So that trilogy, there's another film. I didn't see that one. Funny enough, both of those films I saw with you when they came out. And I know you were not a fan of them.
I don't like Gus Van Sant.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting the fact that this dude was such a big fan of Elephant, which if you're not familiar, that's kind of
it wasn't, that was the visual style. I did actually speak to Chris.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did speak to him at Overlook, and they did a Q&A and everything, and they explained where I think I don't know if we talked about this on the previous when we covered Overlook, but I'll just say it now. We've had this conversation, you and I and other people's on set, and him and his friends on set, where they've had that conversation of what is the killer doing in between things, And so after the Q&A, I actually went up and I spoke to him and I said, and I thanked him for making the movie for a specific reason. I said, when we've had these moments on sets where we're talking specifically, like Friday the 13th 2 is the perfect example, where the beginning of the movie, she hears a noise, she goes downstairs, oh, it's the cat, and then she opens the fridge and Jason's mother's head is in the fridge, and then Jason comes up from behind her and kills her. And you and I, as well as other people on our set, we've had the conversation so what you're telling me is Jason left left the camp with his mother's head under his arm, walked the however many miles it took to get to this girl's house. How he knows where she lives, I have no idea. How he knows how to find her, not a clue. Walked this head down the road to the house, walked in, put the head in the refrigerator, closed the door, made a sound, and then what, stood in the living room and waited for her to come down and find it. Not only did he wait for her to come down, he literally waited for her to come find it, like, which means at
Yeah.
some point she walked past him and he just stood there and watched her, like sitting in the dark, like here it comes. Oh, I can't wait for her to find it. What if she never opened the fridge and found the head? Would he have just sat in the dark and waited for morning? Or what would, if it didn't work, what would have happened? And
Yeah.
and we've always had that discussion. How did Jason set this up? And that's what this movie is. And that's basically where their idea came from, of what is happening. Where is the killer going in between all these things? Why isn't he just picking them off one at a time? Like, here, there's 5 people in the house. Why isn't he doing Amityville Horror, going from one room to the next and just killing them in one shot?
Yeah.
This explains that. He kills one, and he's got to drag the body away. By the time he comes back, they're all gone. And he's got to catch up with them.
It's and when I was like watching and thinking of like a movie like Elephant or Last Days, those films where you follow a character. So like Elephant, just kind of like the original thought with that being his inspiration.
Yeah.
When you watch Elephant, that movie, you're following all these characters leading to a tragedy, which the film is inspired by Columbine. So you know where that's going.
Yeah.
So in that movie, you're following, I think it's like 6 or 7 different students and then the killers. And you're seeing what they're doing leading to an event.
Yeah.
In this case, I could see how he used that kind of setup.
Yes.
But instead of cutting away, because we cut away. At certain points, there are cuts. This is not one long continuous take, which would have been awesome if it was, if they cheated it, but it's not. Because there is day, night, time does change. But I could see how using that kind of concept and then taking it, putting it into the context of just kind of a slasher film and a killer would work really well. And obviously you're going to have gore, and we're going to get into the gore because I think that's what a lot of people are talking about. But just, it is really smart. And I'm surprised it's taken this long for someone to do it. Like, why the fuck didn't I get this idea?
And something like Elephant and Elephant and the Dark Days, that is what he wanted to do originally. He wanted it to be following this guy. It would be just that. Like, he said that the first edit they did of the film was over 5 hours long. And he said they have walking. I think he said 8 or 9 hours of this guy just walking. But the actor figured out a cadence for his walk. And they noticed that in the edit. Like he actually originally wanted, when he's walking from one spot to the next, he wanted to follow the whole walk and to let the camera stay with him the whole time. But in the edit, he noticed that the actor had timed his own walk. So he's thump, thump, thump. And every single take they had was the same speed. Like the actor timed it out in his head, almost like he was counting in his head.
Yeah.
He had a mental metronome. And he started realizing when he edits different cuts together, the steps lined up perfectly like a heartbeat. And he said, okay, well, let's do that. Instead of following for 10 minutes of a straight walk, we can do that jump cut, and it's not jarring because the walk was so steady.
There are jump cuts. Like you do see hard jump cuts, but it doesn't really distract from the long walks these long walks he's taking. So it didn't really bother me.
So they didn't, what I'm saying is they didn't change timing.
No.
That was all there.
Yeah.
Like that.
They
So
actually
the jump
shot
cuts,
7 hours of him walking.
They did. And the actor kept the time. So they didn't, what I mean is they didn't stretch the time to make him walk a little faster, a little slower. They add, of course, there's sound design, but they didn't add sound design to change the speed of his walk and make sure the steps are in time. He actually did all that. And I think that's beautiful.
So when you saw the screening, the original version was 5 hours long.
Not the one that I saw, but yes,
No,
that's what
but
he said. Yes, yes.
their original cut.
His first cut, yes, his first cut
Wow.
was over 5 hours long, and I think there was even I believe he said there were at some point. I think the actor something happened, and I think he broke his leg or his foot or something. And there's some scenes where he's walking and he had a broken foot.
Crazy. That
And he
guy's a
still
trooper.
kept the time. Yeah, he still kept the time. They were like, we shot for like however long, and he's like just hours of him just walking. Yeah, the guy's a trooper. He really.
And not to be negative here, but I could see, and when I was in the theater watching it, it's a very quiet film, no heavy score. There's no like barely a score. There's music in it, but it's more so the music the characters are listening to, because in reality, Johnny wouldn't be listening to anything, and they don't. And I was worried. So you know what was one thing I was worried about? I thought there would be a gag with like the Jason, like the
Yeah.
I thought they would do something like that. And I was like, oh, that'll make it a parody, but they don't.
Yeah,
so
no,
that's
they
good
really don't.
that they kept away from like that situation. But I could see some people. And watching the film and just how quiet it is and a lot of walking, I could see some people not being a big fan of it because of that. I think this is a movie that could be cut down to 15 minutes in 90 because of all the walking and a lot of the nothing that happens. But I think that's what's really smart about it. And
I mean, but you know what? In all honesty, you could say that about every slasher movie.
oh no, you could.
Because all the stuff of the kids, all the
It's
people
usually
talking,
boring.
none of that has nothing to
Yeah.
do with anything. It's just them existing
Yeah.
in wherever they are until the killer shows up. So what's the difference then? Because they're talking nonsense, or I know there's lots of sex and nudity in between the kills, and
Yeah.
that's what keeps you interested.
This has no nudity, which was shocking too. I was blown away by that. I was like, wow, where's the sex
Kills
scene?
are so good.
Yeah, which we're gonna transition right to the kills, because and you know what? Before we go into that, and here's a comparison I could make. So The Prowler,
Okay.
slasher film, most people revere. They love it. They think it's great. More deep cut. You know, I think if you're a horror fan, you know The Prowler. Tom Savini, makeup effects, all that good stuff. I will say though, that movie, outside of the kills, pretty quiet, kind of boring at times. So it's a similar, right? Like the characters setting up for that dance and all that stuff. You're really watching it for the kills. And even if you don't like the kind of art house vibes this gives with the walking and silence and quiet, the kills, you know, putting it up against a film like The Prowler, I would say that when it comes to, if you're going to say boring moments, it's about pretty, I would say the Prowler might be even more boring in certain points. And I love The Prowler. So maybe I'm in the minority there. Who knows? So to me, the whole thing of like, this is what a slasher movie is, I agree, because the kills in this are insane. And let's talk about that, because all practical effects, and you know, I think they only use visual effects maybe once or twice.
There is some just for the sake of like improving the shots.
Yeah. So the most famous one that I think most people I think there's people that haven't even seen the movie yet know about this kill, is the yoga kill, where Johnny rips a hole through this woman's chest.
Through her back.
Through her back. Through
Outer
the
chest, stomach area.
Grabs her head with like, I think the hook.
He takes he's holding the fireman hook.
Yeah.
Punches through her back, outer chest. And then he sticks the hook in her mouth and pulls the chain back so her head goes through the hole.
Rough.
Amazing.
It was good. And
the director said when they were planning the kills, they looked at everything. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put it through, have the thing go through her chest. And he said, how can we make this worse? And that's what they did with the kills. How can we make this worse?
Dude, the crowd, there was a pretty decent amount of people in my theater. And when that kill happened, and for most of the kills, there's one other kill that I think got a same reaction. You probably know which one I'm going to mention after this. But that one, you could hear everyone just go, oh.
There's a clip, I think it's been going around like Bloody Disgusting or something, that went around a couple weeks ago, of about the audience reaction to one
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
kills. That's the kill that you're hearing the sound of. So
Okay.
if you haven't heard it, if people can find it, look up the sound, and it's an audience reaction to it. That's the kill.
Now
That's the sound.
and it's some Lucio
Yep.
Fulci shit, that
Yep.
kill.
You
Like
hear the
legit.
crowd. Oh my God. Like it just escalates it's awesome. It's so
Dude,
cool.
I didn't. So funny enough, I didn't know about that kill until I saw the movie. Completely
They're
blind.
hiding it. They're hiding it very well. Yeah.
I didn't
It's
know. You know,
good.
people. I've told friends and stuff about the film, and some of them kind of spoiled it for themselves and know
Mhm.
about the kill. I
Yeah.
had no idea the kill existed. Obviously, I've seen enough
I
of these movies.
purposely did not mention it because
Yeah,
I didn't mention it when we talked about it. I was like, it's too cool. It's too cool.
it didn't bother me. I was like,
Mm.
whatever. Like, yeah, it was a cool effect because I've watched so
It's an
many
awesome.
movies that
It's
are
an awesome.
violent. But I could see why people are like, oh, like if you don't watch
Yeah.
a lot of this type of, like, if you don't watch a lot of really gory horror movies, you're probably like, oh god. But the other kill that I think gave people a similar reaction is the wood cutting machine,
Oh yes.
and that's because that kill is so drawn out in the movie. Like it
Yep.
is drawn, like it is at the pace of a snail. It's a snail's pace.
It is.
Where Johnny
But
takes the
it's
cop.
almost like it's like security camera. You're just watching it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. And
One
he goes
shot
around.
almost.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
they cheated. I love how they cheated it with Johnny going back. And so Johnny's sitting here. Johnny's sitting, right? Grabs this cop. He had paralyzed him by snapping his spine outside when he tried to confront him.
It's great.
Takes the cop into the work shed or whatever. Turns on. You don't see it because you just hear him go into the. You see it. You hear him go into the shed. Turns some machine on. I thought it was gonna be a chainsaw at first.
Yep.
Turns the machine on. Drags the cop into the shed. You see what it is, and it's a wood cutting, like
The
cutting
wood chipper. Yeah.
wood, not a wood chipper,
Wood
but like
splitter. It's a wood. Yes. It's a
splitter.
log splitter.
Log splitter.
Yes.
Takes the dude slowly. So he walks over, starts moving it, grabs the cop, puts his arm in it first, just to test it out,
Just to see if it's working.
a test drive to make sure. I love how he had to stick his arm. I was like, is he gonna like just chop off his arm and that's it, or like parts of his body? No, the arm was a test run.
Yep.
Takes
Make
his
sure it's
arm,
working.
cuts the arm off, walks back to the button, has the axe part, because I don't know the technical term for that area, has the axe part come back in to wind up to go back down, grabs him, places him still alive. The guy's conscious. He just is paralyzed. And then slowly the blade reaches him, cutting his head off, and you can see his eyes moving and stuff,
Yep.
which is where the CGI comes into play. But such an effective kill. Such an effective, like, just how it's drawn out. A while back, you and I, we did our Lucio Fulci Thanksgiving episode last year. This was, last Thanksgiving, where we talked about kills, and we talked about the drill kill, the slow drill kill.
Head, the drill coming to the head, yeah.
This was worse than that, because at least there you cut back and forth to the drill and the guy.
There's no cutting. Yeah.
There's literally a shot, and they mask the cuts by Johnny walking back to the power button to kind of move the axe part.
Yeah.
So good. To me, that was worse than the head through the chest cavity, just because of how slow Johnny did it, and the dude was alive. Like, you see his eyes blinking, and his, like, he purposely, and I think that guy was involved. And again, I think it's a detail when you watch it a second time, I'll be able to catch it. He was involved with what happened to Johnny 10 years prior.
Yes.
So he gave him the torture kill. Not quick. He wanted this guy to suffer.
Yeah.
So
there is a swap of a fake body. So that's not the actor laying there. It's the same. They did that the same way they did it in Terrifier 2, where with the girl in the bed. That's a whole animatronic body.
Okay.
The girl in the bed in Terrifier 2. And what he did was he filmed her eyes, the girl's eyes, and then digitally put them on the body. And that's kind of what they did for this. They had the fake body, and they put the eyes onto it because that's what makes it look real because they're real human eyes,
No, dude,
and
and
that's
that's
what
what
makes it
adds to the
that's what
effect.
yeah, that's what tricks
Yeah.
your mind into thinking you're seeing a person laying there.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
they did a great job, dude.
Yeah,
They
but
did a
they
fantastic
paralyzed
job.
him so that's how that's how they get over the fact that he just laid there. It's like, well,
Yeah.
how are we going to do this? We can't have him fighting. How are we going to? We want to do it in one take. Do it in one take. He's paralyzed. He can't move, but the eyes keep moving. You know?
It's dude, make having him
Yeah,
having the character paralyzed adds to that kill.
it
He's
does.
conscious the entire time as his head's
Mhm.
about to be cut off. Crazy, crazy
Yeah,
kill. There's a bunch. I mentioned the head rock bashing,
it's
but
awesome.
those are
Yeah.
probably the two. We shouldn't spoil all the kills here,
Yeah.
but those are
Well, I
probably the
think
two big ones.
honestly, a lot of the others were spoiled by the trailer. I've had people say that, oh, all the kills were spoiled in the trailer, and I say nope, they absolutely were not. I there was somebody who posted it and said I really was really looking forward to this movie, but all the kills were spoiled in the trailer, and I said nope, dude, you ain't seen shit. You haven't seen anything yet. Oh, so there's like 4 kills in the trailer. I said there's more people than that in the movie.
That's a pretty large group. There's like 7
Yes.
characters or
Yeah,
something
7
like
or 8.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
get
said, "There's
killed.
more. Trust me." I
Yeah.
said, "You haven't seen anything." Yeah, all right, we'll see. Kiss
And
my
the,
ass.
and the movie, you know what? It's another little
It's
detail.
violent as hell. It really
You know what's
is.
another detail I love about the movie too? So there's a guy, number one motherfucker, that like hick guy. You
Yeah.
always have that hick character in every
Yeah.
slasher movie. So that character, you just see the aftermath.
Yeah.
It's almost like they purposely did that to cock tease the audience. So, oh, you're not gonna see this kill. It's gonna get worse as the movie progresses. So,
That was I think that was the opening scene you mean
yeah.
I think that was a reshoot.
Oh,
They
really?
added that. Like that wasn't in the original script, but they
Oh.
wanted to add a little bit more to Johnny.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a
that
great
was-
scene.
It,
It's a
it is.
fake
It's a
out.
great scene. It's a
Well,
great scene.
it also script wise, story wise, explains how desperate he is to get his hands on this necklace.
Yes.
That he confuses the necklace with something somebody else has because it looks
There's
similar.
another necklace in the
Yeah.
house. Yeah.
That's the MacGuffin of the movie. That's what he
Yep.
wants. That's what Johnny wants.
Yeah, I think that was their way of explaining the necklace by having him find a fake one and then, oh, damn it,
Yeah. Because the
Yeah.
movie starts with the necklace, so that really kind of solidifies what he's after. He's not
I think-
after them, as much as
No,
he
he's
is the
not.
necklace. Yeah.
And I think it was actually a smart idea because even when I first saw it, I didn't really pick up. I noticed the kid, pocketed the necklace, but it wasn't until the moment when when he went for the necklace and the wrong necklace that I connected. Oh, I see. So the fact that the necklace is gone, that's why he woke up. Like I didn't even connect that at that moment.
Yeah.
When it happened so it's a good thing they did add that extra scene because they were cognitive enough of realizing we need to make this clear. If we're not going to have a character say it outright, then we need to make it clear. They do say it later, but it's another maybe hour into the movie before it's when the kids find out you have his mother's necklace.
Yeah.
No.
It's
And-
kind of just it's almost throwaway
Yes.
dialogue at that point.
It is, and you
Yeah.
can't have the audience waiting an hour for an explanation as to why the killer is doing what it's doing when you're following the killer.
No, for sure.
know?
For sure.
So-
it's simple enough though that you don't
Yes, it's
get
very simple.
lost. You don't get lost in what he's
No,
after.
no, but
know?
I feel like if the audience didn't know why he was doing what he's doing, you'd partially you don't have that connection anymore. You're just watching him do stuff. But now that you know he's after his mother's necklace, now we know why we're following him and what he's doing. It at least puts context to the scenes. I think that was very important. So it was good of them to notice that was needed beforehand. I really don't think, I think that without that, it would have felt like something was missing for a long time of the movie.
Yeah, and I think that adds some comedy. That scene is funny. The
It-
number
it
one
is
motherfucker.
That fucking
know.
guy is just cursing his head
Yeah.
off. Get off my fucking property.
He's
you
got the
motherfucker.
hat. The hat says it. The necklace says it. I want to know what that guy's doing. Like I want to know his story. Like
He has
his
a number
house,
one motherfucker factory.
his whole house is disheveled and like squatters living there. I was like, what the hell's going on here? But to kind of swerve to some nitpicks, I feel like this is a good place for us to, before we dive into the ending, which is, I can see, again, people are a little divisive on it. Some people are not. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm in the camp that enjoyed it, but some nitpicks. I will say this. If I have to choose something about the movie
Mhm.
outside of the ending that is a little nitpicky, but I kind of think it was the point. All the characters outside of Johnny aren't interesting. They're
No.
pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
None of them. Your final girl, I didn't even when the end credits rolled, I didn't even know her name. In all
No.
honesty, like I would have to look it up now to know it. Just nothing about any of them stuck
Mhm.
out to me. They were
And
literally body count, which is
they
what
were.
you expect from a slasher film. That's
Yeah.
basically
And
what
it
a slasher film,
and it makes
every
you
slasher film
wonder.
has.
Yeah, and when you watch slasher movies, you wonder how this one person survived. How did, like, the final girl, how did this happen? How did she survive? How did she get so lucky? And by following him around, you see she did just get lucky. Like, there's no rhyme or reason why he
Well,
didn't kill her,
she does
you
one
know?
thing that I guess is the
No, but
reason why he doesn't go after her, which we'll get into in
yeah,
the ending. But
that's in the ending though. But
yeah,
up until that point, how did she make it that far? It's like
yeah,
pure blind luck. That's it.
yeah,
Pure blind luck. And that's how she survived. It doesn't seem that way when you're watching it from the other perspective. From the other perspective, it seems like, well, we've made her the main character, so we're going to conveniently put her out of the way. Here, doing it this way, you don't know who the main character of the film is. You don't know who the Jenny is. You don't know who the Laurie is
no, of
from
course.
the killer's perspective. You actually have no idea until you get to the end. But when you're watching it from their perspective, you know straight off, oh, okay, she's going to be the one in the end. You don't know that
Yeah,
from, you can't tell that from this. And I think
no.
that's what keeps it so kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah, during that campfire scene we talked about before, when you're watching it and the entire scene's it's just Reservoir Dogs, Quentin
Yes.
Tarantino shot where the camera's just going around them from behind
Hmm.
their heads. You really don't gauge. You're like, oh, maybe the blonde is the final girl. This
Yeah.
girl's the final girl. Whatever. You can't. You're right. You really
That's
can't
part of the
pinpoint
fun of the
who's.
movie.
No, for
Guessing who,
sure.
part of the fun. Who's it going to be?
And I will admit some of the dialogue delivery was a little kind of wooden at times. Wasn't great. It did feel like an 80s slasher
Yep.
film, which I did love. I love the aspect ratio. I love the use of grain in the night shots. Some of those
Yep.
night shots felt like they were lifted from like Friday the 13th, the
Yeah.
original 1980 film.
Oh, totally.
Great job. Just kind of the way they did that on purpose. They
did,
wanted
yeah.
it to feel, even though it's contemporary, it's 2024 technically, but they wanted it to feel like an old movie. And they did a good job using that aesthetic in a contemporary film where we
Yeah.
want this movie to feel like those movies, but it's 2024. It's not
Yeah.
the 80s. It's not a period piece. And that's perfect. But the characters, the human characters outside of Johnny are all, you never get to know them. You don't really know their relationships. You don't even know
Yeah.
who's dating who. One of the guys likes one of the girls. I think in a
They're so
second,
interchangeable,
yeah,
you don't even notice. Yeah.
I do think watching it a second time
Yeah.
will help that. Just one time viewing, we both saw it in the theater and that was it at the time of doing this. You really can't. I would have never guessed that those two people. I even think the last two people to survive aren't a couple. I think her boyfriend got killed before.
I'm not
think.
sure.
Exactly.
I'm not
And
even
that's
sure.
kind of my only nitpick is, and I get it. That's not the point. Johnny is the lead of this film, but it would have been nice to, and I guess you would have had to have less characters. Maybe
Yeah.
cut two of them.
To make them a little clearer.
Yeah, where you kind of understand, but I don't think that mattered in this movie. I don't think that's what they were going for. I say that, but then you get to the ending where that would have helped. And I think that's what people are hating. The people that don't like this movie, I think that ending is throwing them off because it doesn't feel like anything else for the first hour and 20 minutes or whatever, hour and 15. It feels like a completely different movie at that point, a different film. So I think that's what most people that are watching, and not people like us, but other people that just thought it was one thing and it actually got another, are hating about it. Like, who's this girl? But is there anything else any nitpicks you have before we go into the ending? Anything else you want to talk about here?
No, I actually feel the opposite of you there.
Really?
I think the fact that you don't really know who they are and that they are so interchangeable, I like that they did that because I feel like it's commentary on slasher films that these characters are throwaway. They're all just cannon fodder for the killer. And this showed it that. This showed that.
Yeah.
I thought that was very clever that they did it that way.
I mean,
You
it
know?
didn't hinder
So
the movie in any
yeah,
way for me.
no,
I
no,
loved it.
it
It's
doesn't.
just, it was,
But it improved it for me. It was
yeah,
actually I thought that was very clever. So
yeah.
while you felt that it kind of took away from something, I thought it added another layer to it by being kind of meta about it and saying,
Dude.
well, this is what how slasher films are. You just don't
Yeah.
realize it because we're following those characters.
No,
But
of
in all
course.
actuality, when you do that 10,000 when that 10,000 foot view, like no, none of them really matter at all.
No, I
Especially when you're
agree.
looking at part 7, part 8, part 9.
Oh, of course.
It does not matter who he killed. It's Jason's story. It's
Dude.
Freddy's story.
At one point, the two girls are in the lake, and one of them is the yoga.
The
girl.
yoga? Yes.
Dude, I didn't realize, and this goes to show you how I was thrown off, because there's like a subplot with the stoner character where he was talking to two girls at the gas station, and he wanted to like meet up with them and do whatever with them. I thought at first that the blonde and the brunette were the two girls at the gas station they were talking about, but no, those girls were at the campfire. So
Yeah.
I was they were
okay.
so blank to me and just kind of whatever to me.
No, I didn't get that confused.
I know. At first, no, in the big wide
Yeah.
shot, that beautiful wide shot of the whole lake, I was like, are these the two girls that are at the lake? I realized it when I saw them up close, the blonde girl. I was like, oh, that's the girl that took the selfie. It took me a second to realize. I was like, oh, that's the selfie girl doing the yoga girl. And then she's kind of has a fling with the brunette girl that was smoking the pot outside.
Yeah.
But in reality, they were so throwaway, dude. I thought they were different characters. I didn't even realize that they were the same people that were at the campfire. So again, not that I get where you're coming from. It does add to it. Maybe
You don't have to agree with me. I get
No.
it. It's fine. We don't have to agree.
I like to see no, of course. And the perspective I know I like your perspective though, that's the point. But I feel like if even differentiating them physically, maybe, or something.
I think you're right though. On the second viewing, it'll become more obvious who's who.
To be like, oh, the African American girl, she is the final girl.
Yeah.
That's literally how I know, because she's the only one out of that whole group, from what I remember. So it's like, okay, she's the final girl. That's kind of how I saw it, So I'm like, that was the only thing to differentiate her from the rest of them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, that was my only beef. I wish they would have been able to find, they're not the focus, but a way to kind of just tell them apart. I
Bosnian, by the way.
Is she Bosnian?
Bosnian Canadian.
Oh, really? I didn't even know. There you go.
I didn't either. I had to look it up. I was like, I don't remember her.
The brown girl.
The darker skinned. No,
Yes.
when you said that, I pictured something and I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember like a black girl.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
she's darker skinned than the rest of them.
So,
No,
yeah.
I wasn't sure. I was like, what am I thinking of then? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So
I was
whatever.
picturing
The person
darker
of
skin
color.
when you said that. I was like, no, she did have darker skin than them.
Yeah, the person of color in the movie was the final girl, and that's really the only thing I had to differentiate them from the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, that was a little. You guys could have done something a little more with the teens. At this point, they're like young adults. Now the ending, which I think most people, it's polarizing, because I had a couple people. So my wife, when we left, she even said she did not care for the ending too much. Friend of mine saw the movie. Friend of ours saw the movie. She texted me afterwards telling me she saw it. Did not love the ending either until I sent her an article to read, kind of explaining its purpose. So I think that's kind of where it's the movie. It's make or break up until this point.
I think I didn't like it either.
So let's say what happens. Let's break that down before we get into it. So
Go ahead.
Johnny. So there's a scene where Johnny basically corners the final girl in this case. That's what I'm gonna call her because I don't know the character's name. Yep. A male character, so the brown girl and a white guy. That's all I can.
Her name is Chris.
There you go, Chris.
Her name is Chris.
Film. So
and his name is Colt.
Colt. So the two of them are cornered by Johnny, and Colt gets the bright idea. Look, you're gonna make a run for it, Chris, and I'm gonna distract him. Yeah. So what happens? Colt, the guy, tries to run up behind Johnny. I think he gets an axe to the head.
To the chest.
Like
right?
he doesn't even, he doesn't even.
Oh, to the face. To the face.
To the
yes,
face, yeah. He
The
does
chest was something,
nothing. He does nothing.
Does
It's a
not-
waste of
As soon as he
time.
gets, he's dead immediately. Yeah.
Johnny begins to like literally like slaughter this guy 100 times,
He
axing
just
him.
keeps. Oh
Keeps
my
going.
God! He bludgeons the shit out of him,
Yes.
and she just stands there for like 3 minutes, just watching this.
Now here's where, and this goes back to my argument about the characters. So Johnny did not do that to anyone else except for the
No.
cop, which leads me to believe that this cult character is the guy who stole the necklace. That's why he's getting the.
Yeah, I think he is.
He is getting the like legit.
No,
harsh.
Troy takes
See,
the necklace.
this
Somebody
is what
else.
I'm saying. You would think that Johnny was so pissed at this dude that he had to turn him to mush because he took the necklace.
The one who took the necklace is the one that got hit in the leg that stayed
Yes.
there for a while and
Yes.
Johnny came back to.
I know
That's
that
the one who took the
now.
necklace.
I figured that out now,
Yes.
putting two and two. But when I watched the movie, I'm like,
I had to look it up because I saw this almost 2 months ago, so the details are still a little
Yes.
fuzzy. Like
Yes.
so I'm looking it up and I'm like, okay, just so I can get the names and everything right.
yes. So
once
he-
2 months ago, and I was just
yeah. So he gets destroyed, slaughtered, turned to mush. He's constantly just getting axed. She's watching on. She takes the necklace off, leaves it on a gas can, runs into the woods. And this is kind of where the film pivots. And now the focus is on her, our final girl.
Yes.
So
now I think
yes.
before you get farther, I think this is where because you keep people don't like the ending. People don't like the ending. People don't.
I
and
like the
agree.
ending. I like
agree.
the ending.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I think what you just said right there, that's the ending.
Yes.
This is prologue.
Yes. And
You
I
know?
took it as
And
that as well.
And everybody
so,
keeps calling it, well, I don't like the ending. That's not the ending. The movie ended 5 minutes ago.
yes.
I still am not crazy about it. I think it was, but go ahead and explain.
And again, I like the ending, but I can see both sides of it. I even have a little bit of I think it goes on a little too long, but
It does.
we'll get into it.
For sure. Yes.
So what happens? Chris, right? Chris is her name, the final girl.
Chris.
She's running in the woods. She's obviously in fear of her life. She's just booking it through the woods. She keeps looking back, hearing footsteps, like Johnny's chasing her.
She left the necklace.
Yeah,
and
she left the necklace, ran in.
And ran for it.
She keeps running. She gets injured. I think a branch or something cuts through her ankle, literally through her ankle, severs her ankle. She makes it to a road. Cut to the next morning. She's in the middle of the road just waiting there for someone to show up. Anyone to give her a lift. A woman pops up. By the way, this woman played Vicky in Friday the 13th Part 2. I believe it's Vicky, the character.
Yeah.
Not
Lauren
the final
Taylor.
girl. Not the final girl.
No,
She gets killed by Jason.
But the last kill.
yes, she's
She's the last kill in Friday the 13th too.
which is, I'm assuming, was done on purpose. There's a symbolism with that, I think.
I think that's just who they could get. I think
Yeah.
he explained. I think that he knew her,
Okay.
the director. I think he knew her or something. So it was
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Nonetheless, it's the actress that played Vicky in
Yeah.
Friday the 13th Part 2 picks her up. Someone we don't really see in films these days.
Yeah.
So they're in the truck. They're driving down the road. What happens? Vicky, I'm just gonna call her Vicky.
Yeah.
Vicky from Friday the 13th Part 2 has a monologue about her brother who's a hunter getting attacked by a bear.
Yeah.
And about the bear, killing for no reason. Again, this is the Cliff Notes version. This literally goes on for about 10 to 12 minutes. This scene.
No, it's I think it's 7 minutes total.
Yeah,
The whole
alright,
thing.
good.
7
It's a
minutes.
long
It feels
scene.
like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
It does.
So-
about 7 minutes though. 6 or 7
Thank you
minutes.
for
the
clarifying
whole-
that.
From when when she picks her up to the end is about a
Yeah.
7-minute scene.
And they go on about, this bear who killed for no reason, and her brother survived the encounter by pretending to be dead or something like that. Something along those lines. Again, I might be getting some of the details wrong because I only
That's
saw it
for
once.
the most part, yes.
For the most part, that's a gist of the conversation, the monologue this woman has to our final girl in the film. And this is what I like about the movie. So the film actually ends. They stop at the side of the road because the final girl, Chris, is bleeding. She's going to bleed to death. She's leaning back. She's pale. Her eyes are shut. She's in pain. She's losing a lot of blood. They pull over to the side of the road. And I love this scene because it's true. Like, kind of just the tension. There was a lot of tension in this scene. And this is why I like this scene. They stop at the side of the road. And the final girl, Chris, is looking straight ahead into the woods as Vicky from Friday the 13th Part 2 is tending to her wound.
Mm-hmm.
And she is in such fear. She's telling her, we have to go. Hurry up. No. And we just get this static shot, very reminiscent of the original Halloween from 1978, of the woods and then different places Johnny has been.
Yeah.
With the last shot being the gas tank with the necklace now missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that portion of the ending because, dude, when we've watched so many horror films that we think there's going to be one last jump scare. Something's going to happen. Yeah. Nothing happens. Showing that this girl is going to live in fear for a long time after this traumatic experience. And I think it's a good way to kind of use, to tell a story, to use slasher tropes, kind of twist it a bit, change it a bit. And I legit thought something was going to happen to Vicky.
Yeah, everybody does. And I think that's why people don't like it, that they do nothing. And I agree with that.
Really?
I feel like nothing, like not a damn thing, nothing.
But dude, that last shot of the tank.
The tension is great. Yeah. It's shot. Yes, the technicals of it.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. But the fact that nothing happens, it's kind of like, we just watched a whole movie of somebody just walking through the woods.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. It's like that's the whole thing. But we followed him through the woods with the promise that we would get somewhere eventually and something would happen. Now we follow her and we get to the end. It's like, now nothing happens. It's inconsistent with the rest of the film.
But I think we don't even have to
see something happen. I know exactly why they do it. I agree. Yeah. I know why they did. You're absolutely right. They're trying to show that she is now damaged for the rest of her life. Yeah. She's never going to recover. And that's that other story of it's Laurie in the hospital, catatonic for half the movie.
Yeah.
You know? That's exactly what that is. And I get that. So the problem is that is the beginning of part 2, not the ending of part 1. That's what you're watching. We're watching the beginning of part 2.
Yeah. And to go back to something you liked, where you liked that the characters, they're irrelevant. It's a trope.
Suddenly she's relevant, though.
Yeah, but I think it's a trope that I guess he was trying to, like you said, who cares who they are? You don't need the jump scare at the end. You don't need to know everything. You don't need everything spoon-fed to you. And the ending is very much almost like the ending of the original Halloween, with just showing. And I think they wrap it up pretty nicely. All he wanted was the necklace, and he got it.
It's the 5-minute car ride. That's what the problem is.
The monologue. The monologue did you in. Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh God, where is this going? And then it really doesn't go anywhere. And I said, well, we just set up part 2. This is what's going to happen. She's now going to go away. She's going to start trying to live her life. And this thing is going to re-enter her life somehow. But that's what I felt like. That movie ended when she left the necklace and got in the car. That's where the movie ends. And this is now the prologue, which means this is the first couple minutes of part 2.
Yeah, but I don't think Johnny's coming back. He got what he wanted, man. He's done.
He's coming back. They're doing a Violent Nature too.
You think so?
Oh, man, yeah.
Someone's going back for that necklace.
I'm sure they're going to do another. But the director did say he didn't want to do the typical ending because he felt like what you said earlier, they didn't go parody route. And he felt like if he ended it the way everybody expected it to, then okay, we're just parodying this. We're not really doing anything different or interesting with it. And I feel like the film, while it follows the tropes, it told it in a brand new way. And that's what annoys me about people complaining about the film, because it's like the people who are complaining about it are probably the same people who complain that there's nothing original and it's all the same shit over and over again. And it's like, no, this told the same thing in a brand new way that you've never seen it before. On top of the fact that it's also geared like, this is for the people who sit and play the Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw video games.
Yeah.
Like, you can sit as Jason playing the game and just walk through the woods for 15 minutes and you're not fucking bored. So why is this boring you? You can do it. You can sit and do that. It's like how people complain that movies are 2.5 hour movies are too long, but you could sit there and watch a 17-hour Netflix series, right?
Yeah,
you can binge 10 episodes of Stranger Things in one day, but a 2-hour film is too much for you.
I was scrolling through Letterboxd.
People just want shit to bitch about, you know?
I was scrolling through Letterboxd and a lot of the bad. I was curious because I enjoyed the movie. I gave it a 4-star.
I haven't done that yet, actually, because there wasn't many reviews when I put it up. So,
and I read a couple of the reviews, and a lot of people are saying that they just got bored with it. The ending was pretentious with the monologue. I read that a couple times. A lot of people. I think the people that didn't enjoy it, they say it overstays its welcome. At a certain point, it's like, all right, this was cool for 20 minutes, and then where is this going?
I think it's just the ending that really does it. I think that people were totally in, and then that one moment of 5 minutes of just watching a monologue that really goes no. I really think that that's what did it, and I think it overshadowed. I think it overshadowed the whole movie for most people, and I don't think that. I think they're just not even realizing that one scene overshadowed everything.
Hey man, my theater clapped when the movie finished, so I guess my theater there was about 25 people in there, and they seem to all enjoy it. So
I think if that scene were like half the screen while the credits rolled, it wouldn't,
Yeah.
I think that if it was like a credits sequence and you just watched it, people would have felt entirely differently about it.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness, I think, with that ending.
There is.
You never see Johnny grab the necklace, and I think that was all done on purpose.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll get a part 2.
Maybe someone else took the necklace. Maybe a squirrel came by and grabbed it and ran off.
If they want to make a sequel, someone else, some other asshole went and grabbed the necklace.
Johnny chasing a raccoon through the woods. Give me my necklace.
Johnny takes Manhattan. He's gonna get on a plane. You're gonna see him ride the plane, come to New York, find the asshole that took the necklace, and he's gonna just stalk them for 90 minutes until he gets it.
The vulture came down and flew by with it. Johnny's running through the woods looking up. That's
all he wants, man. That's all Johnny wants is that damn. I mean, realistically, if they wanted to make a sequel, that's how they can do it. Someone else grab the necklace.
What actually happened to the necklace? Yeah.
Goes somewhere else, and then Johnny is now pursuing them, and the final girl here is gone, and we don't ever follow up with her. Maybe. Who the hell knows? Any final thoughts, Manny, on In a Violent Nature?
I think it's just a great movie. That's it. It's a really good movie. I think that people need to get the sticks out of their asses and realize that this is something original. It's actually something very original while being familiar at the same time.
Yeah. To me, this is...
Take it for what it is.
We haven't had a Friday the 13th film or a slasher movie, like a slasher film of this nature outside of Terrifier, which I'm not going to get into here.
It's not of the same nature. No, I think Terrifier is a different kind of slasher. Yeah. It's not that woods slasher.
Yeah. No, we haven't gotten a Friday the 13th movie in a long time, and I think this movie, if he was able to get the rights to Jason Voorhees, the character, this could have been a Friday the 13th, a very unique new spin on Friday the 13th, and I think it would have worked. And it's the movie us horror fans who are a fan of the franchise and these type of movies have wanted. We want a movie where we're in the woods, there's a camp, there's counselors, whatever, This goes like Hatchet.
Yeah. It's the Friday the 13th. It's the Halloween. It's the My Bloody Valentine. Dude, I think Terrifier
I'm not a Hatchet guy, and I like this movie.
Oh, I love Hatchet.
See, I love Hatchet. I think the first one's decent, but...
Yeah. I think they're great. I love all 4 of them. But I think that this goes in that route. While Terrifier is more Nightmare on Elm Street and Chucky, where we have a charismatic killer versus the silent, Killer in the Dark, My Bloody Valentine, The Prowler,
Yeah.
Intruder, where there's just somebody in the dark that comes out of the dark, snatches you, kills you, and then moves on to the next one.
Yeah.
This is that realm. Terrifier is Freddy Krueger and and Chucky, where the killer becomes part of the fun
Yeah.
of he's got a personality.
And I will say this movie does have some fun in it. It's not all just
It does.
walking. There is a lot
It
of
does.
fun. There is a lot of fun moments in this film. I'd say this to just kind of wrap it up here. If you don't have a chance to check it out in theaters, which I think you should, go support a movie theater, whatever.
Yes.
Even if it's a multiplex, who cares? Regal, AMC, I don't care. If it's a private
go
theater
see
that's
it.
screening it,
Go
see
see
it.
this.
If you can't see it for whatever reason, watch it on Shudder. Give it a shot. Check it out.
Mm-hmm.
I had fun, man. When it's on Shudder, I'm going to watch it again. So there you go. I want to give it a second viewing to see if I missed any small little Easter eggs and details upon first viewing, because I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff just watching it that first time, specifically stuff with the sound design, with dialogue and the distance and stuff like that. So I can't wait to watch it again. I dug in a Violent Nature. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. So
Me too. Me too.
I dug it. 2 dudes. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we both really enjoyed this movie, so we're not going to be too hard on it in any way. And want to see it again, man. And maybe they'll make a part 2, and we'll be back here in the future to give our thoughts. Maybe they'll expand the world of Johnny.
I would like to see it. I'd like to see them do that.
Me too. I'm curious where they'd go. So thank you, everyone, for watching, for listening. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com for links to everything, including our Patreon page, where you can get early access to episodes of the podcast, bonus content, and other spooky goodness. Rate and review us wherever you're listening to this. It'd be greatly appreciated. And as always,
smash that subscribe button.
Smash the button.
Smash it.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
There he is. There's that Johnny Wanted poster. Ooh, watch out for Johnny.
Individual. I'm going to read this.
Okay.
We got this. I got this at Overlook. I know we did our sign off already, but I want to read this. We got this at Overlook. They had these all over the lobby. They like all over the place. I think it was probably the actor who was there. He was in costume. He was walking around. You had to find him. Now, they had this wanted poster. Individuals sought in connection with the discovery of bodies in the White Pines Conservation Area. Victims were determined to have died in a violent nature. Suspect was seen last wearing an old leather firefighter mask and walking in the direction of New Orleans, Louisiana. If you see anyone resembling the above forensic sketch, do not approach. Instead, discreetly photograph and send images to Shudder.
So
And then there was also missing dog photos.
Okay.
There was a dog missing, like posters of I didn't get one of those.
That's cool.
Yep. There we go.
So watch out for Johnny.
So since this is New Orleans, Louisiana, they must have done this in all their screenings. They had it for the different cities.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool little memento to have there.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, watch out for Johnny. He's out there. He's going to get you. Later, guys.